Since recording a game blind doesn't give me much of a chance to explain how I feel about it until after the fact, I wanted to make this video to talk about Dracula Resurrection. You might take a look at the game and see the bad graphics and animation, or hear the poor voice acting, but that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. It looks alright for a game released in 2000, even if it does punch straight into the uncanny valley sometimes, and I enjoy the campy style of the game, but there's plenty of design issues I can't look past. I cut around 30 to 40 minutes of gameplay that was just me silently clicking around the landscape, trying to find what I was allowed to interact with. This problem can almost be entirely blamed on the engine. It's clearly influenced by Myst with its minimal HUD and first-person camera, but it uses a 360-degree panoramic shot for its room, instead of using several screens. This means that finding anything on any particular screen is that much harder, especially with how similar most of the rooms are. The one thing the game does well is creating atmosphere. The problem with that is that it's not an atmosphere for horror. You'd think that a game about Dracula would be more about a horror game, but it's not scary. It tries with having extreme close-ups on its ugly characters and playing distant sound effects in musicless rooms, but I can tell nothing's going to attack me from how the game's set up, and making your characters ugly doesn't make them scary, it makes them ugly. Another weak point in the game is the story. It's really bad. It has a good setup, starting up with a pretty faithful adaptation of the last moments of the original Dracula novel, but it just stumbles over its feet the entire way through. Jonathan Harker is completely unlikable. He wasn't exactly courageous in the book, but here every line is given in this whiny, pleading method. He doesn't care at all about anyone besides himself and Mina, willing to put innocent townsfolk in potential danger after they help, and attempting to kill anyone he either thinks is working for Dracula or just in his way. This actually brings up a good question. If he's so willing to resort to attempted murder, why doesn't he just bring a gun? Like the one he had in the intro? He's coming to face against Dracula, someone who he has first-hand knowledge is a vampire, and he doesn't even try wearing a crucifix. Dracula only shows up twice, once in the intro and once to monologue at the disc change, not even showing up for the finale. And as dumb as the sexy vampire ladies are, I can't hate too much on them, since they, or at least characters very similar, showed up in the novel. They were staked by Van Helsing and turned to dust, but Dracula gets dusted in the intro here, so we'll give it a pass. The only real interesting character was Dorco, and she was mostly relegated to exposition. The worst part is the fact that in the end, nothing really gets accomplished. Sure, Mina gets saved, but she's still in danger from Dracula. No real progress gets made, and besides maybe Dorco getting the amulet as setting something up for the sequel, the entire game portion here can be skipped straight to the next game. It doesn't help that the entire climax hinges on what would be a Deus Ex Machina if it wasn't for one skippable file. The sad thing is that the game noticeably improves once it reaches the castle. It goes from a D-, hopelessly clicking around similar snowy roads, hoping to find the right pixel, with little real puzzles, to a solid C+ with some decent puzzles such as the Zodiac puzzle. This game could have been much better if the pre-castle segment was thrown out entirely, and they made the castle itself 2 to 3 times bigger, something like Myst in a Resident Evil type setting, with more focus on puzzles and learning the layout of the castle. This would have also reduced the number of characters needed to interact with, letting them focus more on improving other aspects, instead of the awkward character motions and dialogue. But they didn't, so the game is what it is, and that's all I can really say about it until I play the sequels.